All right. Thank you, Alex and Kennedy, for giving me a moment on the desk this week. For our next guest today, you might know him from the popular short film Lava. Also, a little bit earlier, For the Birds. He is also a Marquette alum. Please welcome with me, Jim Murphy.
Yeah. Everybody.
Welcome.
Larson.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on. Well, welcome back to Marquette.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Yeah. Have you noticed any differences since being here?
I don't think I've recognized anything since the time I was here.
Really?
It's changed so much.
Well, McCormick's still standing.
McCormick's still not for much longer.
Yeah, I know.
And Johnson Hall looks the same from the outside, but boy, inside is really progressed.
Yeah.
You guys are lucky.
Yeah, we have this beautiful new facility that we're so fortunate to have. I want to bring back, you lived in McCormick during your time here, right?
I did, yeah.
And you had a really cool roommate, too, Chris Farley, right?
Yeah, well, Chris was my roommate my junior year.
Your junior year? Yeah. All right.
So I lived in 201.
In McCormick.
And I think Chris might have been like on the 6th or the 8th floor.
So you probably saw him.
Yeah, I met him like probably
Yeah.
first week at Marquette. I met him.
What was that like, just seeing Chris Farley before Chris Farley?
He was instantly recognizable as something special. Like from day one, and when we first freshman year, he was so preppy. He was all like khakis and pink polos, and
I could see it just like
like topsiders with no things. But then over the course of a few months, he would tear the sleeves on his pink polos, but he was great, and we were instant friends from like the first week.
Yeah.
And he was as funny as you know him on television or in his movies, but even funnier.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
Even funnier in the sense that he had an incredible ability to change his humor based on his audience, where he could be outlandishly crazy, like we've seen him, but he could also be really subtle and make your grandmother laugh. He really had a unique gift for humor, for sure.
He even helped you find your wife today, right?
I wouldn't say help me find my wife, but
yeah.
So Chris and I were in the same class, and we played rugby together. And then Chris's brother Kevin was 2 years younger than Chris and I, and Kathy, my wife, and Kevin were friends. So Kevin brought Kathy to one of our parties, and that's where we met.
Yeah. I should say meet. I want to talk more about like some of like what you spent time creating here. You did a lot of comics for the Tribune, right? What were those comics like?
They were fun. When I came here, I really wanted to go to art school. My parents weren't big fans of me going to art school, so I ended up studying journalism. And I'd always been kind of a closet artist in high school, but never really took many art classes. And first thing I did, probably the first week, was come to the Marquette Tribune and started drawing cartoons. And they were more, at that time I was just drawing, I remember my first cartoons, a piece had fallen off the side of a building on McCormick. And no one got hurt, but I think it was a guy walking around with an umbrella, knowing that, that was like the first cartoon I did. And then I was kind of off to the races, and then for 4 years I did cartoons here, and I can't remember the exact, sophomore through maybe senior year, I had a comic strip called Murphy's Law.
Yes.
And with that, that was great. That was a great opportunity for me to really be forced to draw, and to kind of like you guys here, that I had to come up with 2 ideas a week, and I had to figure out how to get them done in between school and playing rugby, and it was a great growth time for me, and a great discipline too, and I think my drawing blossomed in the 4 years that I did. But Marquette didn't have an art department, but they had the newspaper. So it was, again, like taking advantage, like you guys are, of the facilities and the things that are around you to fill in the gaps and help you find your way or expose yourself to cool opportunities.
Yeah, and that, I suppose, started off your career post-grad. We talked in another interview, you briefly mentioned you had some sort of connection with the Little Caesars mascot. Am I right?
I did.
What was it?
When I worked in an animation studio in Chicago called Calabash. And Calabash did, at that time, it was all 2D ads. So 2D animation, so hand-drawn, cell-painted animation. And the biggest client was like General Mills, so we did Lucky Charms and Trix, Trix the Rabbit and all that. But one of the clients was Little Caesars, so it was the pizza guy. So some of the animators were on the General Mills stuff. I was doing the Little Caesars, so I got to draw the Little Caesars guy, which was huge for me because I'm from Detroit. And if you know anything about animation, that Little Caesars character is all on ones.
Oh, yeah.
And ones is just, usually, so there's 24 frames a second, and on ones means you do 24 drawings per second. Mm-hmm. And you just get like all Richard Williams. I don't know if you know Richard Williams. Thief and the Cobbler.
Oh, yeah.
That's all on ones. Mm-hmm. So it has this really fluid movement, but it's expensive to do that many. So Little Caesars was fun because majority was on ones instead of on twos.
So like how quickly could you get out 24 sketches?
I don't know. Probably, the way it works is you would work really rough.
Oh. So
you work really rough in pencil animation, and then you shoot what's called a pencil test. And then once you feel like the movement's working, then you go to like the next level of cleanup, to where then so in those roughs you can knock out pretty fast, but then when you're kind of honing it down, it takes a little bit longer.
I suppose. Moving forward to when you moved out to LA, you got a cool job creating a video game, Torrance Passage. You even had an opportunity, you applied at Pixar before they'd even started Toy Story, and you turned it down, right? Because you didn't want to move, and totally understandable. But I remember another interview, you said that when you saw Toy Story on the screen, you were just like, I missed out, and then you just knew. Like, what were you thinking then?
Well, what happened was, I was working at Calabash doing the Little Caesars guy, and I'd heard about Toy Story from another animator that was working there. And I was at a time where I was feeling like I want to up the ante. I want something more. And he mentioned that, and I had just purchased my first computer, and I once it was like an old Mac Performa. And you just see the handwriting on the wall, like, here's the future. You got to get in on this. So I sent a sample reel out to Pixar, and they brought me out for an interview. And it was for Toy Story. They showed me the Army Man sequence, and I was like, this is unbelievable, so cool. But the offer was only for 6 months.
Oh.
So it was such a dilemma where, we were living in Chicago. We just had our first child that was probably just a few months old. I had this opportunity to move to California, only have work for 6 months. So I said no. In the meantime, another company that I had interviewed with was in Seattle. So this is the Torrance Passage. So I had turned them down as well, but then they came back and kind of upped the ante a little bit. And I said to my wife, like, let's go for it. Seattle would be fun. So I worked for a year in Seattle doing this computer game, and then Toy Story came out, like Thanksgiving of '95. And I went and saw it, and I was devastated. I just saw, like, I blew it. I had the opportunity of a lifetime, and I was horrified, and I was so mad at myself that I punished myself, and I went to see the film every single day until they hired me. And I spent the weekend. I spent that weekend of Thanksgiving getting my resume, my reel, everything back together, and I had it on Pete Doctor's desk that Monday after Thanksgiving, and they called me that week, and then brought me in. I interviewed again. And they're like going, we're like, really? It's like, we're excited that you're still interested. So then they hired me. I was the first person hired after Toy Story, and I worked on A Bug's Life was the first.
So lesson learned, you want a job at Pixar, watch their movies every day until they hire
Right,
you.
exactly.
All right, cool. Make a mental note right there. No, seriously though, thinking about like that when you saw them, how devastated you were, are there like movies that come out that you didn't work on with Pixar, but like because you were working on another film, and you just saw that and you're like, man, I wish I worked on that one. That would have been so much fun.
Yeah, I would say so. You know, I think I'm proud of all the movies that we've done as a studio.
Any in particular that you just wish that you had the opportunity to animate on?
I would say Coco.
Oh,
I didn't get to work on Coco. I thought that was wonderful. Incredibles 2, I didn't get to work on.
Yeah.
And the stuff I've been doing lately is I haven't been working on the films. I've been doing the promo work for the films.
Yeah, you just did Toy Story 4's promo, right?
Yeah, so I'm doing that now. So I'm currently, doing that now. So that's really fun. It's a whole nother avenue of like doing all these great little vignettes with these characters and TV commercials and all kinds of fun stuff.
That's awesome. I have some questions I threw out to like some audience members to see what if they had anything they wanted to ask. One that I found was interesting. The most complex character that you had to animate, who would that be?
I would say probably one of the Nemo characters.
Yeah. Was there any specific one on Nemo that you worked on?
I'm trying to think. Probably Hank.
The octopus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then if you were stuck on an island with one Pixar character, who would you want to be stuck? Who would you want it to be?
It'd either be Sid from Toy Story or Darla from Finding Nemo.
That's Darla. Darla. Why Darla?
I don't know. I just thought it was
All right. Quick before we go to break, I want to play.
by the way, they're dating.
They are.
Yeah.
Sid and Darla are dating.
This would be a good little short, wouldn't it?
That would be a really interesting short. I would love
Sid
to
and
see
Darla.
that. Speaking of shorts, I actually want to play a quick game with you. I have several pitches for you, and let's just see let's see if any of them stick for you. All right, so my first one. A turtle must prove its love to a hedgehog.
Do you have a title for it?
It's a working title. I didn't get one for that yet. I'm sorry. These are just rough pitches.
Okay.
I'm just hoping one of them stick.
You haven't really fleshed them out at all?
Not quite. What about the Charmin commercial, but a movie? Just a bunch of bears that love toilet paper.
I like that. It's soft and strong.
All right. The Wonder Pets, but even more pets.
Wow.
And then, wait, this is my personal favorite. Toy Story, but the toys don't come to life. Andy just walks into the room and he's like, your toys. And maybe one goes missing and it just finds out that he left it in the car or something.
Yeah, and then no one goes out to find them because they're just toys.
They're just toys. They're just toys.
Yeah.
So it's more following Andy and his mom finding the toys.
Larson, you're very clever.
Thank you. Thank you.